really been momentous to see a regime that has held on to power for so long, over half a century, and then throughout a 13-year brutal civil war, to really fall within the course of less than 2 weeks. So we're not so far out from it, from the fall of Assad and his refuge in Moscow. But certainly there's a lot of insecurity in the region right now. A lot of people are nervous about what this might portend for the future. But Syrians are jubilant. They feel like today is just a day for the future that they never thought would be possible, frankly, and that it could potentially turn a positive leaf for a country that has been through so much devastation. That said, the group that led the charge is Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is a designated terrorist organization. So many Syrians are also wary as well, but aware of all of the hard work that needs to happen to get to a better place that they had, dreamed of for so long.
So, Natasha, how long will it take, and what will be the signs that you're looking for to see a government that the United States can, in fact, have a relationship with?
I mean, that's a great question, and I think the next few weeks and months are really critical for many reasons. Within the country itself, we want to see more positive signs from HTS. They have given reassurances to religious minorities, for example. They've kept government employees in their posts for the most part. So it's been relatively bloodless, which is great to see for a country that has suffered so much. But what we really need to see in a country like Syria that has been just economically devastated, 90% of the population is under the poverty line, is we really need to see a rise in basic services, a rise in basic salaries. Your average government employee gets paid $25 a month. And we know with desperation breeds discontent, and discontent can lead to, potential, greater insecurity, infighting, and terrorism. So I think that the United States has a really positive role to play with the designation it has on HTS and its sanctions to be able to steer Syria towards a better future and hopefully a more hopeful one.
It also raises the question, Natasha, of the role that other U.S. adversaries could play in this. Russia and Iran, as we've talked about, were also dealt blows by the downfall of Assad. And I do wonder, the circumstances that you are describing do seem, if in the worser case scenarios, ones if there are unrest, that Iran might be able to take advantage of, even if it does find itself more weak in this moment. So how does the U.S., the new Syrian government, whatever it is, and others in the region, including Turkey, need to behave here to make sure that Iran stays down, if you will?
Right. I mean, this was truly a humiliating defeat for both Iran and Russia, who have been stalwart allies of the Assad regime. This rebel offensive was essentially possible because of a regional breakdown in power, where you saw Iran and its proxies really decimated. And Iran's forward defense strategy in tatters. It'd be difficult to see how they mount any kind of positive campaign in Syria at this time. That said, what we have seen in recent days was the Syrian Democratic Forces. This is the group that the U.S. backs, taking control of a really critical border crossing called Abu Kamal, which Syria shares with Iraq. This is a key part of the conduit of the sort of Shia crescent between Tehran and its proxy Hezbollah on the Mediterranean. And Syria is really key to that strategy and that arms shipment sort of corridor. So, I mean, if we see the U.S. troops, for example, pull out, as we've seen President-elect sort of allude to, saying that there's no U.S. interests in Syria, we could see the emergence of potential spoilers from Iran, but also ISIS as well.
Well, so where should, if you were looking forward here to make the most strategic decisions, Natasha, where should U.S. forces be positioned, Iraq or Syria?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think in an advisory role, remaining in Iraq would be pretty critical to U.S. security. But really, the 900 troops that are in Syria are a lot of bang for one's buck, let's say. It's a very limited presence, but it's kind of a wedge to prevent insecurity from rising from ISIS cells really reemerge in a serious way. And again, to prevent Iran from sending arms shipments and militias back through that corridor. So I would think that, first and foremost, leaving U.S. troops in place. But on top of that, to really have a kind of stabilizing presence for the country, we've already seen a U.S. brokered ceasefire in the north between sort of Turkey and Turkish-backed groups and the Kurds. We need to see more of that in the months ahead to prevent greater insecurity during this really fragile moment. And then, as I mentioned, with sanctions and the terrorism designation on HTS, there really needs to be a checklist in terms of behavior, transition to civilian governance, dissolving of militia groups for a broader, more unified Syrian military. And the U.S. really does have cards to play along with its allies in doing that. So I think that there's really, really concrete steps that I do hope the U.S. plays here.
Natasha, in our final 2 minutes with you, I also want to note that the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, made a trip to Israel, where yesterday he suggested that he thinks there could be a deal between Israel and Hamas and a release of the hostages this month. And I wonder the extent to which you think there's credibility in that statement, or if this is misplaced optimism.
Right. I mean, we've of course been talking about this since this February, that there will be a ceasefire imminent in any moment. I do not know if Prime Minister Netanyahu would want to, at the end of the day, give President Biden the win here. He might be essentially waiting for President-elect Trump, which he hasn't been very secretive about, is his preferred candidate, and wait to give President-elect Trump the win. I could see that easily happening. If President-elect Trump can take this as a win, then maybe we will see it in the next month. But I have my doubts.